The red live indicator flares in the corner of every television from Anchorage to Miami, and suddenly the entire country feels as though it's squeezed into one intense, humming studio. The air conditioning vents push out an Arctic chill, yet the host's upper lip glistens with nervous sweat. Camera cranes glide overhead like silent hawks hunting drama. A row of LED panels scroll real-time comments, tiny white bullets of opinion firing faster than any producer can track. Center stage, Senator Bernie Sanders, jacket unbuttoned, leaning past his mic like a boxer who's already smelled blood. He's been invited to discuss President Donald Trump's controversial new executive order, a move freezing federal funds for nonprofits under investigation for graft. But Sanders isn't in the building to discuss anything. He's here to detonate. "Let me be crystal clear," he begins, Brooklyn gravel sharpening every consonant. Donald Trump is the living, breathing definition of plutocracy, a president who sells out America to the billionaire class while pretending to be its savior. The words slap through the studio, loud enough that even the floor manager flinches. Sanders pauses, lets the echo hang, eyes blazing beneath those trademarked white brows. An audible gasp rolls through the audience seating. Behind the host's desk, a massive Twitter wall explodes with hashtags, hashtag Sanders strike, hashtag truth or dare, and, ominously, hashtag Trump responds. Likes climb by the tens of thousands, but something's off-kilter. The ratio of flaming mad emojis to applause hands is tightening by the second. In Sanders' green room, an intern refreshes analytics and feels her stomach drop. Sentiment is sliding, fast. Back on set, the host stutters a follow-up, but Sanders steamrolls forward. The American working class deserves a leader who fights for justice, not a showman who weaponizes corruption and calls it patriotism. With that final haymaker, he snaps his notes shut and reclines, satisfied. The studio lights pulse like an adrenaline-spiked heartbeat. Somewhere off-screen, the control room director mouths, "We just went viral." Then silence from the White House. No push notification, no rapid-fire statement, just a blank presidential void. Cable pundits scramble to fill it, interpreting the quiet as recoil. Yet across the Potomac, a different storm is gathering. Aides marching down marbled corridors, printers spitting out thick packets, security badges flashing red to green. Something is coming, and it is anything but recoil. The host tries to pivot topics, but viewers can already taste blood in the air. Phones buzz, president to address the nation, 8 p.m., surprise statement. Twitter servers groan, newsroom interns sprint. And somewhere deep inside Bernie Sanders' war room, that intern with the analytics whispers to her supervisor, "Why are the angry comments outpacing the cheers?" No answer. Just the humming suspense of a nation holding its breath before the counterpunch of a lifetime. Truth, or what passes for it in primetime combat, is about to step onto center stage wearing a red tie. Stay tuned. Like, comment, share. The real fireworks haven't even started. The moment Senator Sanders' last syllable ricochets off the studio walls, America splits into two parallel time zones. The noisy now of social media meltdown, and the ominous quiet radiating from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Twitter is a crackling bonfire, hashtags sparking like pine needles. Hashtag Sanders strike gets top billing, but within minutes a leaner tag begins crawling up the charts, hashtag where is Trump. Memers pump out gifs of a tiger pacing its cage. TikTok lives fill with countdown clocks and ominous orchestral loops. It's all light and heat until it isn't. Because on the other side of that digital roar lies a silence so thick you could butter it on bread. Reporters ring every White House comms aide. Voicemail. Cable producers pull in retired generals, psychiatrists, anyone who can talk for 4 minutes while the chyron pleads, awaiting presidential response. But the West Wing remains a black box theater, blinds down, phones dark, no slip-ups for the vultures. Inside that hush, corridors buzz with hurried purpose. A Marine Guard steps aside for Chief of Staff Harrison Blake, who carries a 2-inch binder sealed with a crimson strip reading, "Evidence, Level 3 Classification." Nearby, Press Secretary Dana Morales scrolls a tablet, her thumb leaving sweaty half-moons on the screen. Time-stamped wire transfers, tax-exempt filings, signatures looping unmistakably into the name Bernard Sanders. Printers spit and whir like artillery prepping a salvo. Still, no leak, no tweet, not a single soundbite for the ravenous public. Meanwhile, 450 miles north in Burlington, panic ignites beneath the campaign's victory balloons. Donor hotlines jam with unanswered calls. A Wall Street fundraiser texts, "Is there actual vetting on those nonprofits?" The analytics intern, now infamous for her earlier warning, refreshes the dashboard, sentiment graph plunging like a winter thermometer. She whispers the brutal math to her supervisor. Anger is outpacing applause 3-1. No one meets her eyes. Across the nation, everyday Americans feel the barometric pressure drop. In a diner outside Tulsa, a trucker named Dale folds his newspaper and mutters, "Storm's comin'." In a Detroit ER break room, Nurse Pilar switches from celebrity gossip to live news and senses the air grow electric, the way hospital corridors do right before the crash cart squeals. Then, buzz, buzz, buzz. Phones vibrate in unison like an insect swarm. White House press office, President to deliver surprise address 8 p.m. Eastern, no questions. The wording is a flare in a midnight sky. No questions means one thing: incontrovertible payload fired point blank. Wall Street trading rooms hush as analysts stare at the alert. A digital billboard in Times Square flips from perfume to breaking news in blood-red letters. Even late-night comedians scrap monologue drafts because the punchline might arrive enwrapped in presidential letterhead within hours. Back in Burlington, Sanders tightens his tie a millimeter too hard. "We stick to justice, we stick to facts," he barks, but the tremor in his voice betrays him. A senior advisor studies the silent TV behind him. Aerial shot of the White House lit up like a sleeping giant. Calm, resolute, unknowable. Dear viewer, buckle in. The nation has entered the eye of the storm, the breath held before the thunderclap. And when that podium microphone clicks on at 8 p.m., the first word out of Donald Trump's mouth will either shatter careers or reshape history. Drop your predictions in the comments, because after tonight, the map of American politics may need a brand new legend. 8 o'clock strikes like a courtroom gavel. Every cable network cuts to the White House feed, tickers freeze, studio lights everywhere dim by instinct, as if even LEDs understand when history is about to etch a deeper groove. A hush ripples across the land, through truck cabs in I-80, bustling taquerias in San Antonio, and a Vermont campaign office gone snap cold. Then the doors behind the presidential seal glide open. Donald J. Trump steps forward, not charging, not swaggering, just arriving in that deliberate, heavyweight walk boxers use on title fight nights. Navy suit pressed razor sharp, red tie a vertical lightning bolt, and in his left hand a thick dossier bound with a single brass clasp, edges flagged by neon stickies like detonators waiting for wires. He plants the file on the lectern with the care of someone placing a crown jewel, adjusts the mic, and lets 5 full seconds of silence burrow into every living room. "Good evening, my fellow Americans," he begins, voice low, unhurried. "Tonight, I wasn't scheduled to speak, but when someone takes to national television, calls me a traitor, and claims the mantle of defender of the working class while silently siphoning their dollars, well, duty outweighs silence." Reporters lean in, camera cranes shiver. Trump flips the dossier open, thwap, revealing page after page stamped confidential audit trail. He lifts the first sheet, angled to the camera so every viewer becomes a virtual juror. "These," he says, "are IRS-verified records, $85 million funneled through 5 front nonprofits. Same nonprofits that champion lofty slogans while cutting checks to companies owned by Senator Bernie Sanders' top donors." Gasps burst in the press pit. Keyboards clatter like hail on a tin roof. He reads out loud transaction IDs, dates and amounts down to the penny. March 14th, $2,317,450 to Justice Now Alliance. April 22nd, $4,168,900 to Green Horizon Initiative. Each figure lands with the recoil of a sledgehammer. Screens split across America into side-by-side shock. Anchors gape. Sanders' campaign HQ staff exchange bloodless glances. Hashtags mutate mid-sentence. Hashtag Sanders strike shrivels. Hashtag truth bomb detonates. Yet Trump's cadence stays calm, almost parental. "I don't bring this forward to gloat," he continues, gaze locking on lens 13, "because the American people deserve leaders who don't preach virtue while cashing your paychecks behind a smokescreen." He taps the file. "This isn't conjecture, it's certified. And senators in this chamber watching now, you signed off on some of it." A live heat map on a network producer's screen goes crimson. Phone lines overload from Fargo to Fort Lauderdale. In a Michigan steel town, retired miner Walter, coffee mug trembling, mutters, "I knew my pension didn't vanish on its own." In a Phoenix living room, teenager Bella pauses her TikTok bake-off to whisper, "Mom, is this real?" The nation's pulse sinks to the slow,